Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Well, for this week, I think we realized that we've been doing a lot of movies because they're really easy for us to just like watch one movie and talk about one movie. But we did want to try to get back into like talking about some TV shows that we've watched or were into at a certain point. So I guess this week will be specifically about like part 1 and 2 of Sabrina. Oh shoot, that's not the name of the show. Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is the name of the show. Um, and then throw in a little
Oh,
Riverdale
Riverdale
stuff
action.
because yeah, technically Riverdale is in the same family storyline as Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Archie comics, all of that. So I thought
Yeah,
it would be cool to kind of like talk about both, but probably more in depth about Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Wow, that is my instinct to call it Sabrina the Teenage Witch because that is what the
that's what the
comic
comics
books
are. Yeah.
are, and I forget that this show is called Chilling Adventures of Sabrina because it's supposed to be like a dark twist on the happy-go-lucky
Man,
original story.
I'm just out here wondering why can't it be happy-go-lucky? Why it has to be dark? Because
I
same
mean,
thing with like
the
Riverdale.
happy-go-lucky version already existed. Like,
I
there's already a
mean,
TV show out.
yeah, but wholesome vibes because as we like start talking about like this whole show, some of the stuff that they get up to is so freaking weird or like messed up. And, like,
But
backwards. I guess that's
but
the
like that's the
point.
whole point.
Yeah. The
Like,
ugh.
when you talk about, like, witches and Satanism, like, their whole it should be dark. So I guess the original way of looking at witches is, like, positive, down to earth, good people. Like, this is showing, like, that even the good witches have, like, almost, like, these backwards thinking, dark,
Yeah.
characteristics. Like, they're not
Yeah.
like perfect good. They're like a lot of the characters I feel like are anti-heroes in that sense that like what they're doing is wrong or like it's frustrating because you know that their process of thought is wrong, but like they are doing it for a somewhat good cause and you're like, okay, maybe it's okay, but then you're like, but it's not though.
It's so very conflicting. The inner turmoil during, like, some of these, like, episodes is very real. Okay, but enough of, like, this very general overview. Let's, like, at least introduce some of the characters so we know who's who. So, obviously, we have Sabrina, right? Like,
Hmm.
teenage witch. And I think it starts out like on her 16th birthday or like when she's turning 16.
Leading up to her 16th, yeah.
Mm. And then you have Harvey, who is her like sweet mortal boyfriend.
At the start, let's like say from like episode 1 of this show,
Yeah.
the way the characters are portrayed, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Harvey is her boyfriend at the start.
Yes. Very sweet, very wholesome vibes. Then there's Roz and Susie. Um, so Roz is like Sabrina's like really good friend. Same with Susie. You later find out. Well, this isn't like a spoiler alert because it happens like within the first two parts. But Susie comes out as transgender and transitions to their identity of Theo.
Mhm, they
So
changed their name essentially, yeah.
yeah. So I will probably end up referring to um, the character as Theo because that's what I've come to know them as. So yeah, if we say Theo or Susie, they will
I
same
will
person.
say, like, when you said Susie, it literally took me 10 seconds, to figure out, like, who you were talking about, like, I was like, "Who's Susie? Who's
Yeah,
Susie?" Because
yeah.
majority of the show, I think, is or even I think we say, like, in the first 2 parts, but I think very close to the beginning of the show,
Mm,
Susie becomes Theo, and so then Theo is, like, what they're called for, like, the rest of the show, so
yeah, or at least like I think it happens like at least like for only one season are they called Susie and then they transition to Theo.
Mm.
And we have 3 seasons of them being called Theo. So, you
Mhm.
have those, like those are, like, the core, like, friends of Sabrina's, and then you have, or at like her mortal high school, Baxter
Hmm.
High. Then you have her aunts, Hilda and Zelda, and then her cousin Ambrose and her cat Salem. I
Hmm.
thought that was worth mentioning. It's a black cat, by the way. Obviously, you gotta keep the theme, keep it on brand. Um, and then in the Academy of Unseen Arts, or like basically where these people, where witches learn how to witch. Um, they go to the academy,
Where
and
they learn the dark arts.
there you go. There we go. Words. Um, there's Prudence, Dorcas, and Agnes. They're called the Weird Sisters, and they, over like the course of like the seasons, they go from like Sabrina's kind of like, not like the nemesis, I don't know the plural form of nemesis, but nemesis is what I'm going with. Um to like
Fair enough.
to like acquaintances, or like allies. Like they're not like close, but like they vibe sometimes, you know?
They were quite literally her bullies in the first part, so
Yeah. So nemesis. But then like, second season they're on the same side. They happen to be on the same side against their fight against evil or something. And so
yeah,
like
they're
slowly.
actually schoolmates now, so it's kind of like,
Yeah. Well, they're still really mean to her at school.
hmm,
But yes, there's like a possibility of them. But by the end of the show, by season 4, which I have watched, they're like acquaintances. That's as close as they get. Um, and then who else? Oh, Nicholas Scratch. How could I forget about him? He is a student at the Academy of Unseen Arts. And the Academy of Unseen Arts, let's be honest here, it is very sexist. But there's like this competition, which we'll probably talk a little bit more about later on, called Top Boy. And there's like places that are boys only, and it's very backwards, all because of this one stupid dude named Father Blackwood, who's like the principal and like of like the academy, but also he's like the high priest of like the Church of the Night, which is basically the Satanist community or satanic
yeah, he's
community.
sort of like this leader and pivotal role, and like when he goes into power, the way they show it is like he took the very modern views that they were having and decided to go backwards because he himself is like misogynistic and doesn't care for women,
Yeah,
like
he's
female witches.
yeah.
And so his whole goal was to always put them down and raise the boys up.
Mhm. And he really doesn't like Sabrina because obviously like she's a pretty powerful and talented witch. She's also half of a witch, so that makes her like part mortal. And like throw it back to like Harry Potter days, that means she's basically like a mudblood or whatever. Like she's
And she's
basically
just like she's
impure.
not
Like
a
she's not.
pure-blooded
Yeah.
witch, so like they view that as something bad, yeah.
Again, so stupid, so backwards, but that's what happens in this show. So he doesn't like that she's powerful. He doesn't like that she's like half mortal and half witch, and like consistently tries to walk the line.
Yeah, she doesn't fit with like a status quo. Like she doesn't, because they all are like kind of like brainwashed to believe that they must do things a certain way because
Mm,
that's what like Lucifer says they need to do, which is communicated through Blackwell. So basically, like that's how Blackwell like really pushes his like narrative of
agenda.
power is that
Mm,
when you're like a high priest, like you're essentially the communication point is what they see you as between the Dark Lord
yeah.
and the rest. So they think that whatever comes out of the high priest's mouth is coming from the Dark Lord himself.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's kind of what the show kind of shows like I think bit more towards like the end of part 2 is that like just like how in like the traditional view of like I guess God versus and not like the Dark Lord, but like God and stuff like that. Like they don't the up higher being doesn't get involved. It's not like they're like actively talking through the priest.
Mm-hmm.
And like so same thing here. Like here Lord Blackwell is just talking what he wants to say and making
Yeah.
people believe it's from like the higher being.
Power. Or like he because it's okay, to me it's like less of a religion and more of a cult. Maybe that but that no, that is what it is. It's a satanic cult essentially.
Yeah.
Wow, cool. No, but like it basically cuz like in a religion like you have like texts or like you have all like you have supplemental materials, but in cults, specifically in like this circumstance, it's literally like you have one person that's being like that's controlling the power, controlling the narrative, um, and like you believe him because they're like, oh, he's just like the conduit of like the higher power or whatever, and it's so stupid. And you see how he uses that like position to like push forward his own agenda and like make himself the most powerful. He's annoying throughout all 4 seasons. I'm gonna be honest. Like first season, second season, like he has the power of the Church of the Night behind him. But even like in seasons 3 and 4, when he's like pissed off because he's been like spurned, like also very
Kicked
annoying.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. Because, okay, I mean, not a spoiler, but like, yeah, he gets kicked out. People are like done with his bullshit and they're like, yeah, no, screw you. Goodbye. Um, in more actions than like those particular words, but you get the gist. But yes, okay. So starting out, to be honest, I thought Sabrina and Harvey were really cute at the beginning. I was like, oh, like
I mean, it was interesting how they started it off with them dating.
yes. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting like they would grow and they'd be like, oh, like they got together, but they started it out with the main character in a relationship, which I feel like is rare.
Yes. But I think that also gave away that they wouldn't end up
Last.
together. Yeah, like wouldn't last, yeah.
It hurts my heart. Um,
But that was what Harvey's character was always. So
yeah.
in the original
Mm.
portrayal of Sabrina Teenage Witch, Harvey is like the football guy that's like big and handsome,
So we
but like
thinking like he's like the Archie of like this
no,
universe.
not really. Like he's just like this. He's dumb. Like he's like really dumb, and like
Oh,
because
okay.
of that, he's just like super lovable and like and it's like he's just like a dork essentially. Like he's just like dumb and like aloof all the
Okay.
time.
Mm.
Um, and then so like, but they didn't really go for that portrayal. They did like they did the lovable guy kind of thing. Like he's like charming and stuff, but um yeah, like, the original portrayal of him is, like, he's just this big, like it's like a big puppy, like, kind of character.
He's so cute though. He is very cute.
Mhm, and so and, like, that and Sabrina, like, has a crush on him and, like, goes for him at school in the mortal school.
Mm.
I don't remember I don't think I looked into, like, Nick's portrayal and if there even was a character equivalent. I'm sure there was because I'm pretty sure there was a love triangle in the original story.
Mm.
But I don't remember like how I think it was just supposed to be like the same thing. Like the whole concept was like these two different like hair colors, right? Like you get like the blonde, like aloof, like charming, sweet guy, and then you get like the dark haired, sexy, mysterious
Mm.
one. And so that was kind of like I think the two sides that she was choosing from
Yeah.
to like kind of I guess portray herself being
Mhm.
split between these two different lifestyles and worlds.
True.
Also in the original depiction of the story, like Salem the cat
Mm.
is like a character. Like
Like a person.
in yeah, in the actual show, I believe, in like the uh nice portrayal of like the comic,
Mm.
Salem talked and like would give like
Oh.
and like it was a puppet that they were using like a puppet cat and it was like janky to look at, but essentially like the cat is like saying like sarcastic comments and like funny commentary to Sabrina throughout the show.
Oh, I see. I see. I see.
But in
Okay.
this one he's barely
Yeah, like
in it.
it's essentially it's like unheard communication, like telepathy. almost. Like,
Mhm.
he'll meow or, like, he'll just, like, look, and Sabrina will respond.
Mhm.
And it's really interesting, but also in the 4th season, I guess, as an ode to, um I know we said we were focusing on, like, parts 1 and 2, but okay, just in season 4, like, I guess it's an ode to, like, the Sabrina the Teenage Witch TV show. They have
Okay.
a moment where they bring back the stuffed cat and they make him, like, talk, and he's very sarcastic and, like, quippy, like, witty and, like, has a lot of
Yeah.
quips.
That would
And
probably be an ode to the old show because that's
yeah.
exactly what
And
happened, yeah.
yeah, that just reminded me, I was like, "Oh, so that's, like, where it came from." It wasn't like it was kind of like an homage.
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah, because right, this show was actually very popular, like the original.
Mm,
So, they were deviating but remaking it. So,
yeah. Um Yeah, wow. Salem really was like an actual character. I think having Salem was Ambrose an original character?
no, I don't think she had a cousin. I'm not sure though.
So that's what I was thinking. I'm thinking maybe instead of like Salem like having a big role, maybe they just kind of offloaded it to Ambrose. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
possibly. I don't know. I honestly very confused with the point of having a cousin and stuff like that. But you know what?
I don't think he's like blood really. I'm really confused. I want to know his backstory. I feel
They
like
never go into his backstory.
I don't remember it if they did. Like he just
Not in the
always
first two parts,
calls
but I thought they would do it later on.
I don't think so, like, he just always calls her cousin, and I was like, "Okay, but, like, on which side are you related? Like, who's your mom? Or, like, how you exist?" But no, they never go into it, which was surprising to say the least. But yeah, Ambrose, honestly, he kind of is the MVP at a lot of times because Sabrina will get up to some, like, whack-ass stuff and like he has to oftentimes like clean up the mess or like cover for her or like in in some cases like he'll come up with the idea and then Sabrina won't listen to like the full warning and she'll do it and then he's like crap, so now we gotta run it back and fix this. um
Hmm.
he really be doing the good work here. Also he has a really cool accent. I don't know if it's British or like it's
I think
some.
it is.
Yeah, it's nice to listen to. That's all I got for Ambrose. And
Nice.
then and no, and then Hilda's also. She had a British accent, right? No? Cool.
I'm sorry. What?
I thought Hilda also, like, the Aunt Hilda has a British
Mm,
accent as well, but I don't remember if
I
Aunt
can't
Hilda does.
remember. Yeah.
You know, that's how you know it's been too long since you've checked up on Sabrina.
Yeah. I found it like around the time that the first two seasons had been out already,
Mhm.
and I watched like that in like 2019, and then that was it. And then I haven't caught up with it since, to be honest, because I think the last like two parts came out in 2020.
Mhm.
One
Yeah.
in Jan, and then the final part was recently, like right before the end of 2020.
Or no, I actually think it came out like the Jan 1st this year.
No, it says December 31st, 2020.
JK, never
So
mind.
yeah,
I know
but anyways,
nothing. No, I think to be honest, I wasn't gonna watch the show. Like I had already like I watched Riverdale. Like okay, so I start Riverdale came out first. So like obviously I watched it first. Right? Cuz that came out like in 2018 or something like when we went to college, that was the show.
it started when we were in high school.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
Again, I don't know much. But basically, like I started out watching it, and I was like, there are certain people that I start shows for, and Cole Sprouse was one of them.
I think that's why everyone started Riverdale, because they were very intrigued for his comeback show.
Oh, I thought it was because KJ Appa was like attractive.
Nope, I don't think anyone knew who KJ Apple was until they started that show.
No. Well, I'm basic.
I was intrigued because it was Archie, but yes, I know for a fact that that show was trending because it was Cole Sprouse's comeback show since
Wow.
college. So
Wow. Cole Sprouse really got that power behind him. Wow. Um,
yeah, I mean, like same with like Dylan Sprouse.
but Dylan Sprouse is like doing his own thing. He's got like a beer company or
Yeah,
a
but when
bar.
he made like small like acting comebacks, like some of
Uh,
that stuff would it would become like maybe not like everybody watching it, but it was like people were like intrigued by the
yeah.
scenes or whatever. Like when After 2 came out and he had scenes in it, like those scenes were trending in a sense, right? Like people were putting it out and being like,
I'm
"Why
gonna
is
say
Dylan
it.
Sprouse in this?"
His character so good. Like not like okay, so like okay, this is a tangent, but you know how like in like in all the second ones of like these trilogies,
Oh
like
yeah, the
to all
second
the
love
boys
interest is
is
usually better.
always the better one. Like they don't even deserve the main girl. They deserve someone better. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
But specifically in After, his character was probably way better than
Oh yeah. Mm.
because he wasn't manipulative and whiny,
Emotionally stable,
yeah,
mature, such things.
economically stable.
That one, like financially, he was good. But yeah, no. So like Cole Sprouse is definitely what drew me to it. Um, and then like I watched it because I thought like same thing. Like I thought it would be Archie comics, and like that's like what my like parents had grown up on, and like they used to tell me like the cute like how much they enjoyed reading it. So I was like, oh my god, maybe it'll be like so maybe it'll be like nice. And so like I originally started watching it like I watched the first episode with my parents because I was like,
Oh,
oh, this will be cute because like
so you basically don't read synopsis or like look at trailers before starting a show.
well, I didn't think it would be that dark.
Well, it says right at the in like the synopsis of the show like a dark twist of the Archie comics.
I just saw Riverdale and I heard Archie and Betty and Veronica and Jughead and I was like, "Oh my gosh, guys, we should watch this show. This is like your childhood." And how wrong I was. Um
I knew going in that it was like a darker, more mature twist of it. And but that still made me interested because I was like, "Oh, okay, so you're saying same characters but we're going to have like a different storyline with it. That's interesting." Like that would be
mm,
cool to see like a updated modern version of Archie. So I went into it with that in
yeah,
mind.
I normally don't go for super dark things unless it's like so like The Flash, The Arrow, all of those like CW like superhero shows cuz like they're humorous but then they have like the darkness too. And so that's what I've been used to. And then like I thought this Riverdale would be like similar and like more humor, but it was more drama than anything. Like drama
Yeah.
and darkness. So I wasn't expecting that either. But yeah, watched that and then for some reason I was like, "Oh, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina? Hmm. Seems like it maybe there'll be interaction between like Riverdale and Greendale because sometimes in Riverdale they mention Greendale and then in like the trailer or something I saw that this took place in the town of Greendale. I was like, "Oh, interesting." There was no connection. There was no crossovers, nothing.
Yeah, they just mentioned
Mm.
Riverdale like once to like remind us that across the river it's like town over it's Riverdale. But
Yeah, I really thought they were gonna do something, man.
I mean they could have, but because they're on two different networks, it makes it a bit difficult.
Wait, has Sabrina always been Netflix?
Yes.
Oh, snap. So it was never CW. For some reason I thought it was. And
Nope.
wow. But yeah, and then they also mention in Sabrina Lucifer. So then I thought there would be like um a crossover with Lucifer. No crossover there. And then also, but but
Why
on
would you think there would be a crossover with Lucifer? The whole plot
because
lines are so different. Like
no
the way
no no
Lucifer
no
depicts Lucifer is so different than
no, because in another CW show, in Legends of Tomorrow, and then I think Yeah, in Legends of Tomorrow, they had actual like Lucifer from the Netflix show Lucifer like show up and be
To
part of
play Lucifer.
to play Lucifer. Like, and he was portrayed like the way he was portrayed in like the Lucifer show. So it was like I was like, wow, and they're from different networks because Lucifer was like FX and Legends of
Fox.
Tomorrow was
Fox.
sorry, Fox. And Legends of Tomorrow was CW, so I was like, oh shoot, a crossover. I really had big hopes for this thing.
But the way they portray Lucifer in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is like the very typical Dark Lord, bad, evil,
Mm.
mean, manipulative. But then the
Mm.
way they were trying to portray Lucifer on Lucifer is like more lighthearted and not as bad, just misunderstood.
Yeah.
So I was like, I never thought that they would be a. It just wouldn't didn't make sense that the two worlds would ever merge at that point. Like the concept of like Lucifer being in LA doing detective work while also manipulating people in Greendale to get Sabrina to join
I thought it would be like
a
alternate
cult.
universe type stuff, you know? Like like you know how like in CW shows they're like, "Oh, this universe or the multiverse or this and that." So I was like, "Ah, maybe." Anyways, I digress. But point is, watched Riverdale first, then decided to try out Chilling Adventures of Sabrina because I was like, maybe they'll do something and maybe they'll collab, and the collab never happened, and now Sabrina's over and Riverdale's still going strong, and there's
Mm.
been no collaboration. Very sad day for me.
Yeah, I only watched one season of Riverdale before I lost. Before I, yeah, I just stopped after the first season because immediately, like second, like the following seasons after the first ones, people were like talking about how it was like bad.
Mm,
Just like made no sense at any point anymore. And I was like,
exactly.
all right, I don't need to get into it. It's
Mhm.
not what I want to do.
Yep.
Uh, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. So like I grew up reading Archie comics, so I knew about Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but never read the comics for those. But I knew like that they both were in like the same world.
Mm.
And so I was like, okay, we'll give this a chance. And I liked it because I thought they did it way better, like this dark twist on a happy-go-lucky story. Like I thought that they it made sense for a witch storyline, and they executed it really well versus like Riverdale where it was just really dramatic and yeah.
Like, I think, yeah. Honestly, good that you stopped after season one because I like kept watching because I was like, well, for the sole purpose of like Betty and Jughead because I was like, wow, that's a cute ship. But then it got super complicated and like extra. And then there was like supernatural stuff, and then I was like, oh gosh, because at first I thought it was like gonna be like a crime, like the dark crime type thriller show with like
Mhm.
added in with the drama, and then they got like started going with this game and like these like red paladin stuff and like Dungeons and Dragons and like mythical stuff, and then I was like, I can't do this, I can't do it
Mhm.
anymore, it's getting too much out there, like.
I just find it so interesting that CW specifically, and I'm saying this specifically because I know it's CW,
Mm,
needs to make high school shows where someone like everybody like all the main characters need to be in a relationship at some point.
mm,
Like because if you when I like think about like Archie comics,
yeah.
first of all, Jughead has always been alone. Jughead has never had a love interest in the comics.
Mm.
To the point, to the extreme point, like he was never interested in any girl, right? Like Jughead's character was the comedic relief. He was always interested in just food.
Aw.
And he just joined along for the fun with Art, and he was just best friends with Archie, and they would just like do everything together.
Mm.
And so, never once in the comics did they ever give Jughead a love interest, to the point where like people were like, "Oh," to the point where the comic book writers like basically like revealed or like put out there that he's like asexual or whatever, which is like you don't have to keep up with that with like the TV. like version of it, but that's what his character was in the comic books.
Yeah.
And then so but then they made Betty and Jughead to get together, which I thought was a cute twist of like the story, because like I never would have thought of that during the comics.
Mm,
But it's like, even in the comics, like whenever Archie wasn't with like Betty, or let's say he was with like Veronica at the time in the story,
mm.
like Betty would just be chilling. Like it's not like she needed to be with another dude.
She was just straight vibing, bro. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, like in the Archie comics, I don't think he was officially dating either of them. So
that
he was just like
man
jumping
was
back and
just out here, just,
yeah.
enjoying life, like chilling. Maybe he'll date Betty. Maybe he'll date Veronica. Who knows? Because I remember,
Yeah.
like, that was like the biggest, like, well, I didn't read Archie comics, so I don't know for sure, but like, I knew like one of the biggest, like, not controversies, but like plot points was like, who's he gonna end up with, Betty or Veronica?
Yeah, biggest love triangle,
Mm,
and like it's like an iconic love triangle that's like known. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, they kept up with it. They don't actually. I don't think they ever say they ever like.
convinced or said anything? Like, did they confirm who he ends up with?
Yeah, that they never did that. I don't think. I mean, I wouldn't know, because the thing is, like Archie comics, you didn't have to read them sequentially. There was no sequential storyline. Like it's not like you have to read this one before the other one.
Um,
They're just like all different little stories in the world of Archie. So I didn't know where I was in his life, to be honest. He's just always in high school. Something's happening. So you just never I just never knew if they ever got. So like I think they obviously released like I think more comic books after a certain point, showing them like more grown up and like going into college and stuff like that, but I never really was able to get into those.
I see, I see.
Cuz just like access, it's like hard to find Archie comics.
That's true. I attempted to go to a comic book store once, couldn't find any of them.
I don't know if they would be in a comic book store, but I don't know if you know about like Half Price Bookstore.
Yes.
Yeah, so I remember going there and they had some stuff. That's where I got my original,
I see, I see.
like not my original access to Archie comics was somehow, I think my mom found them in India and she brought them and then I would read them.
Mm.
But whenever I think at certain points I wanted to read more into Archie comics. Like I found them in like the Half Price Bookstore, like in hand me down stores essentially.
Oh, I see, I see, I see. That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. What a time. I I think I think I might have just preferred, although I like the closure of like knowing that like Betty and Jughead are together, or like Veronica and Archie, or like whoever. I think I probably would have preferred, I don't know, I think I would have liked it if they stayed true to like the story. But then like I don't know how applicable that is for like an actual TV series, you know?
But that's my point. Like they make it where like they gotta be with somebody all the time. Like
Mm,
CW shows, aside from like Supernatural, like the main characters always have to be dating someone or with someone or hooking up with someone for some sort of dramatic effect. They're first of all they're in high school. Like they don't gotta be with anybody. They can just be doing school and like
true.
join in for like the ride or whatever.
Also, it's like
Also,
20 something year olds playing like
I mean,
15
true, but
something year olds.
yeah, that's always been the case.
That's true.
So, like, that's the thing, right? Like, whenever Archie wasn't with Veronica, Veronica was with Reggie in the comics.
Really?
Yeah.
I kind of liked her with Reggie, to be
Yeah, it
honest.
was some people like that. Like, they look good together. I mean, that was like the way the whole plot was. Like, if Archie went with Betty, like, Veronica would obviously go with
Yeah.
Reggie, like, because Veronica always kept, like, both of them. And
Wow.
so Archie and Reggie were, like, would butt heads because of that.
Interesting. Okay, so that's where the tension, because like in the show itself, like they had tension and then they stopped the tension and then they got tension again because like Veronica did end up like vibing with uh Reggie while Archie like went on his like solo quest or something. So like
Mm.
there's in the comics itself, there has always been tension between Reggie and Archie.
Yeah, because especially Reggie, because he's always trying to compete with Archie for Veronica.
Mm. Also, was Archie being into music a thing in the comics?
Yeah.
Okay, so so it's pretty like similar, like the show, like his traits, I guess, as a character.
Yeah, I think so. Like with Archie and like the comics, I think it was a little less about like the music stuff was like connecting stories to like the Josie and the Pussycat Dolls. There's like a whole
Mm,
comic book series about Josie and the Pussycat Dolls, but they just made her like a main character in the show and then had him join in. But
mm,
yeah.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. Also, did you that Katie or something? Is there like another Katie something? There CW is coming out with another show. It's basically Josie from Josie and the Pussycats. Um, it goes to New York to meet up with her friend Katie something, and then they
I
have
think
a
it's
whole
already
story
out,
with
isn't it?
her.
They already had like a season out.
Maybe I
Katie
just know
Reed.
it's Lucy Hale and something something.
Yeah, Katie Keene.
Ah, Katie Keene, that one. Was that a thing too? Like, do you know her role?
No, I don't know who she is. I'm sure she was like a comic book that they're adapting, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, okay. Anyways, super dark, super backwards stuff. But yeah, I like that. At least like with Riverdale, I don't know as much about Sabrina, but with Riverdale, like they kept some of the character traits the same, even if the CW has made them unable to cope with being single. I feel like that's really bad because also, like, they're single people. Maybe it's because people are trying to live vicariously through like this
Yeah,
TV
obviously,
show,
that's probably why.
and
But
they're like, no, you don't ever have to be alone. But it's like also like, wow, that's not healthy, right? I don't know. Sorry, TV show should not be the go-to place for like love advice or like relationship. But
especially teenage CW shows,
I
yeah.
mean, true. But yeah, I'm just thinking like the kids that watch it in high school or like going into high school, they're like, wow, interesting. This is what
Mhm.
people do in high school. Cool, 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 cool. Um, barring all of the, murder mysteries and gangs and not gangs, but like the serpents and um but actually, hmm, it's just a very exaggerated version of some things. Like, okay, how much of Riverdale did you watch? Only one season. Never mind. You don't know about all the other crap that they get up to.
I mean, I kind of do, like very, very vaguely because I watch other people's videos making fun of it.
Ah,
But
yes. That's always a good one. So you know that like Archie becomes like an underground fighter and like goes to prison
well, I do now. Sure, so yeah.
and oh, well, yeah, that's that kind of crap happens. It's all very backwards. Not backwards, but it's like there's very roundabout ways that they've gotten to that point. And like
Yeah.
once like there's a point in a show, and like I feel like most shows where you're like they're just like stretching shit now.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's where it is. Like also I'm happy that like Sabrina's ended because like I think it was getting to that point maybe, and like
Yeah, maybe they just felt like, well, Netflix canceled it in like
yeah.
July, so
Well, Netflix just has a tendency to do that, right? Like
Mhm.
after like 2 seasons usually. But
Yes.
um yeah, there's like points in shows where it's just dragging on, and I feel like that's where Riverdale is right now. And honestly, and like so much so that I think now they're doing like a time jump. Like they didn't like do you remember Pretty Little Liars? Like in like one of the seasons, like later on seasons, I guess,
Really
the
jump
network
forward.
was like, yeah, let's do a time jump
Mm,
just to continue the story as much as they could. But
mm.
I mean, that's it. I don't know. Sometimes time jumps can be cute, but I don't know. Not in CW shows. I don't
I
know.
see the way they execute time jumps in K dramas is the only type that I want to see, and only one that I accept. But
I will agree with that. Yes. I just want to see the characters happy and like thriving and living their life.
yeah,
Just at
because
the end.
time jumps in K dramas effectively is to show like how they've been apart in some way, and like it takes them like 3 to 4 years to get back together again because they
Mhm.
needed time to grow separate.
Yeah. It's like very it's like there's still conflict and then like they recognize miscommunication and like all this other stuff happens and they're like, "Okay, like we're both grown as people and like we've matured and we've gotten to this point and we've talked about our issues." And then like it's a healthy way. But like sometimes in like CW shows, it's like nothing changes or like in Pretty Little Liars, sorry to bring this up, but like they ended high school, they graduated with like all these characters had their respective partners. And then you go in the time jump and like half of the couples switched partners.
Nice.
And I'm like, wow, it'd be like that sometimes. But yeah, I don't know. I think I currently and I think I'll keep this mindset is like that I think comics or like even like animated versions of like shows or stories, I think I will always be happier just to leave them as is than to see the reboots or like the live action versions. Because, like, even with like animated films, some of the magic is lost. Might be a
Mm.
hot take, might be an unpopular opinion, but that's just how I feel, man.
Hmm.
I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Listen, I don't care for Riverdale anymore. Sabrina was good for the amount that I watched, but I very evidently have only watched the first 2 parts of Sabrina.
Mm.
So, my attention span for these kind of shows are really diminishing fast.
You know, I don't think it's a bad thing.
I'm tired of these CW shows. Tired.
Tired. You know, I think we all are at this point. But I will say the arrow and the flash, mostly the arrow will always have a special place in my heart. That is all. That's all I got. And with that, I'm gonna say I'm good. I'm done with Sabrina and Riverdale. They're left in the past. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
be
I don't need more of them.
no, I'm good. I think I think we're done for this episode.
Yep. I have nothing
I
more to
think
say.
we're saying goodbye to these whack ass shows sometimes.
Please, please.
Moving on. Hopefully next time we do a TV show episode, it'll be something that we're like, okay, maybe we'll continue this. Maybe.
Yes, I would like to watch a Western TV show again that I'm actually interested in continuing
Yes,
past the first season.
true.
Please.
Please.
It's been years.
Honestly, true. All right, guys, we'll see you next week with probably another episode. On what? We don't know yet.
Yep. Yep. Very
Bye.
typical. Bye.